Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Bibbidi Bobbidi Books. My name is Ellie and today I am so excited to be filming my summer book recommendations video. So I have a bunch of books to chat to you about today, all of which I think are perfect to pick up this season. I've tried to choose a range of genres, so I'm hoping that there'll be something for everybody in this video. So if you're looking for something to pick up this summer, if you're a bit of a seasonal reader and you're craving those summer vibes, then keep on watching this video. But without further ado, I'm going to jump straight in with the first book. So the first book that I want to recommend to you is actually a middle grade story, and that is My Jasper June by Laurel Cinder. So this is a book that I read quite recently and I picked it up on a bit of a whim because I haven't really heard many people talking about this one, but I'm so glad that I did because it is such an uplifting and also quite heartbreaking story. So yeah, don't go into this one expecting a light fluffy summer read because this one talks about some heavy themes, but the reason why I think this is perfect for summer is because it's set during the summer holidays and our main character spends a lot of time outside, and there's lots of gorgeous descriptions of nature and of flowers and of being outside. So in this story we follow our main character Leah, who is a 13-year-old girl, and she has experienced a big tragedy in her family, and during the summer holidays she is incredibly lonely because all of her school friends have jetted off on vacation and her parents have to work during the day, and so Leah is very much left on her own at home and she's having to deal with her feelings of grief and loneliness. And then one day she goes out exploring the countryside and she runs into this girl called Jasper, and they spark up this really beautiful friendship, and it's so supportive and it's just really lovely. Both of our two main characters, Leah and Jasper, are both going through some really difficult things, but what this author does so well is that she talks about the importance of friendship and the importance of having an open communication, and she also explores how resilient children can be. And yeah, it's such a lovely story. My only gripes would be that the ending felt a little convenient and a little bit unrealistic, but it is a middle grade story so I'm willing to forgive it for that. And I also felt like social services was painted in a bit of a negative light in this book, which I think is a bit of a shame. But aside from that, I would definitely recommend this one to you if you're looking for a quick and easy read that packs a punch. Okay, so next I want to recommend to you some young adult books, and the first one that I'm going to chat to you about is All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. This is such a fun YA fantasy story. It's the first in a duology and I couldn't recommend it highly enough. I had a blast reading this one. So this is set in a kingdom where there are all of these islands, and the rulers of the islands have this really unique power. It's like this creepy soul magic, and our main character is a princess who has been training all her life to one day rule over the islands, and the story kicks off when she has to do this demonstration to show her people that she has control over her soul magic and that she is worthy of one day being ruler, and something goes wrong and she ends up off on the run with this mysterious pirate, and she's sailing around the islands and finding out that she perhaps hasn't been told the full truth by her family, and it's a blast. There's mermaids, there's magic, there's a really vivid tropical setting, and yeah, highly recommend this if you're looking for an action-packed YA. The next YA book that I want to recommend to you is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. So this is quite a new release and it's a fantasy standalone based on Korean mythology, and I had such a nice time with this one. This is much more whimsical and it reminded me a little bit of watching Spirited Away, you know, the movie by Studio Ghibli. This follows a girl called Mina who lives in a village which is ravaged by these really deadly storms, and her people believe that they need to sacrifice a young maiden to the sea god every year in an attempt to stop these storms from happening and to save their people. And the story takes off on the day that someone is due to be sacrificed, and it turns out that the girl who is due to be sacrificed is Shim Cheong, who is Mina's brother's beloved. So he is in love with Shim Cheong, and of course he doesn't want her to be sacrificed, so he tries to intervene, and in a dramatic turn of events it's actually Mina that ends up throwing herself into the sea to save her brother, and she ends up getting whisked away to this spirit realm where she finds out that the sea god is actually under this curse that she needs to break, and it's a whole lot of fun. It's very, very fast paced. It throws you straight in with the action. So if you're looking for a page turner to read this summer, then I would recommend this one. Okay, so the first adult book that I want to recommend to you is Circe by Madeline Miller. So this is an incredibly popular book, so I'm sure you've probably heard of this one before, but this follows the character of Circe from Greek mythology, and it's essentially telling her life story. So we see her upbringing, the whole book spans a huge number of years, and we spend a lot of time with this character. It feels almost more like a character study, and yeah, it's so lyrical and beautiful in the way that it's written. And if you don't know, Circe is the daughter of the sun god Helios. She doesn't inherit any of the sun god's powers, and she also doesn't inherit any of her mother's beauty, so she's seen very much as a lesser god, and she's treated pretty terribly, and so she turns to the mortals for companionship, and she ends up finding out that she does have powers, and that she has the power of witchcraft. Now, when Zeus catches wind of the fact that she has witchcraft and that her powers can be used against the gods, he feels quite threatened, and so he banishes her to exile on this island where she has to spend the rest of her life. And yeah, so we spend a lot of time on this island, and we get lots of gorgeous descriptions of the plants and the wildlife on this island, and we spend a lot of time with Circe as she's honing her witchcraft powers by using plants and flowers to make potions and things, and it's just very lyrical and poetic. And we also see a lot of events from Greek mythology from the perspective of Circe, which is quite interesting. And yeah, I would highly recommend this to you if you like luscious writing. The next adult book that I want to recommend to you is another very popular one, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. So this is a standalone adult fantasy, and it is so cozy and heartwarming and wonderful. So in this story we follow our main character Linus, who works for the government, and in this world magic is seen as incredibly dangerous. So children who are born with magical powers are housed in these orphanages that are controlled by the government, and our main character, it's his job basically to go round to these orphanages to make sure that they are all running by the book, and to make sure that these magical children aren't getting up to any trouble. And one day he gets called up by extremely upper management and sent on a job to the House in the Cerulean Sea, which is an orphanage known to house some of the most dangerous magical children, and we follow his journey. So Linus moves into this house, he meets the children, he meets the man who runs the orphanage, he spends time with them, and he starts to question his prejudices and question the rules by which he's always lived by. And it is so heartwarming. There's a real found family element to this book, and it's also funny and witty and uplifting. So if you're looking for something fuzzy to read this summer, then I would definitely recommend this one. And the setting feels like summer to me because obviously the house in the Cerulean Sea is out in the Cerulean Sea, so it's on this island, and yeah, it's just so lovely. Okay, now for something completely different to Cerulean Sea. The next book that I have to recommend to you is a horror book, and it is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Now I can hear you saying, Ellie, why are you recommending a vampire story for the summer months? But just hear me out, because this book actually takes place in the southern states of America, and it takes place during summer, and it's really hot. So I think this is perfect for a summer-ween book if you're looking for a horror story, if you want all of those gruesome, grisly horror vibes, but you also want something that takes place during the summer, then I would highly recommend this one. So this story follows a housewife, and she is a member of a book club where all the local ladies meet up and they chat about thriller books. And then one day this new man comes to town and people start going missing, and our main character is pretty sure it's something to do with this man that mysteriously arrived, and she wants to get to the bottom of everything, and things go from there. What I will say is it gets pretty gross pretty quickly, so I wouldn't recommend this for you if you have a weak stomach. But yeah, I thought this was a really great horror book, and what I really enjoyed about this was also the social commentary and how Grady Hendrix kind of talked about the very real horrors of sexism and racism alongside the supernatural horrors, and I thought it was really fascinating to see that the powerlessness and the fear that a lot of our main characters felt was often due to the other men in the community and the way that they were treated by the men and also by the authorities, and you know, that was almost more scary than the actual supernatural elements. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting, bearing in mind that this is set in the 90s as well. So yeah, I would recommend this if you're looking for a really gross horror book. Okay, so switching gears again, I am now going to recommend to you a couple of romance books. So if you're anything like me, then you might enjoy picking up a nice fluffy romance during the summer. I just feel like they're the perfect books to read if you're chilling in your garden, sitting in the sunshine, or maybe lounging by a pool, and you want something that's, you know, not too heavy and not too serious. So yeah, I've got a couple of romance books to recommend to you today. The first one is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. So this one just screams summer. I mean, look at the cover for one, it's just so summery. So this story follows our main character Olive, and her twin is getting married, and her twin actually has this honeymoon planned. So she actually won this holiday, this all expensive included trip to Hawaii, but unfortunately the bride and also pretty much everybody who's at the wedding ends up coming down with food poisoning, and the only people that aren't affected by this are Olive and the best man. And Olive's sister basically pulls her aside and says, you need to go on this honeymoon in my place because otherwise it's going to be such a waste. So Olive and the best man end up going together on this trip to Hawaii, and they have to pretend to be married so that nobody asks any questions, and they have to share the honeymoon suite. So you've got that forced proximity trope in there, and it's really funny and it's just really fun, and of course you've got that amazing backdrop of being in Hawaii, so it's perfect for summer. The only thing that I would say is that it's probably not for you if you like steam in your romance, because this one is very much fade to black, but don't worry, I do have a more steamy romance coming up next, and that is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. So this story follows our main character Danny, who is a college professor, and she ends up entering into a fake dating situation with the security guard of her building. So the setup basically is that Danny gets rescued from the building by the security guard during a fire drill, and the security guard carries her out of the building, and all of the students film this heroic rescue, and it ends up going viral online, and everybody is shipping a relationship between the two. And so they decide to kind of take advantage of that and take advantage of the popularity, I suppose, that's come off the back of that. And so they go into this fake dating situation and things progress from there. It's a romance book, we can all guess where this is going, but I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really funny. I love the main character, she's really spunky and full of beans, and I also really loved the love interest in here because he is such a hopeless romantic and he listens to romance books in his spare time, and the chemistry between the two characters was on point, and the smut was also really enjoyable. Highly recommend. Okay, so the next book that I have to recommend to you is an adult fantasy book, and it's the first book in the Daevabad trilogy, The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. So I really enjoyed this first book and I loved the setting of this one. So in this story we follow our main character Nahari, who is a con artist who is living on the streets of 18th century Cairo, and one day she accidentally summons this Jinn warrior while she's doing this ritual that she didn't think would actually work. And this Jinn warrior basically convinces Nahari to travel with him to Daevabad and to the capital city of the magical beings of this world, which is known as the City of Brass. Now the details are a little bit hazy because it was a while ago that I read this story, but what I loved about it was the atmosphere and the setting, because I could practically smell the incense and feel the sand blowing against my skin, and it was such a unique setting as well, because I feel like a lot of epic fantasy is dominated by medieval type settings with castles and dragons and stuff, so it was really nice to have one that was in more of like a desert setting, and it was just so much fun to be in here. We had magic, we also had a lot of politics in here as well, because there's a lot of political tensions within Daevabad, and we get two points of view. So we get Nahari, but we also get the point of view of a prince known as Ali, who lives in Daevabad as far as I can remember, and he is second in line to the throne, but he has some some pretty conflicting opinions about the way the city should be run and the way that people should be treated, and that causes a little bit of tension within his family. And yeah, it's just such a fascinating world to be in, and I cannot wait to get to the next one, although I definitely feel like I need to reread this one, because trying to talk about it now I just feel like a lot of the details have kind of gone from my mind a little bit. But yeah, it was absolutely magical and I really enjoyed it. There's also a little bit of a romance as well, if you like that in your fantasy. So yeah, check this one out. Okay, so before I head off, I just have one more book that I wanted to recommend to you, and that is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. So this is a fairly new release and I haven't actually read it yet, but I'm very, very excited to pick it up soon. So from reading the synopsis for this one, it sounds fairly similar in tone to The City of Brass, so you might want to check out this new one if you've already read this one and if you enjoyed it, because it sounds like it's kind of a similar setting. So I'm just going to give you a little read of the synopsis. Just grab my laptop. So it says, Luili Al-Nazari is the Midnight Merchant, a criminal who with the help of her jinn bodyguard hunts and sells illegal magic. When she saves the life of a cowardly prince, she draws the attention of his powerful father, the Sultan, who blackmails her into finding an ancient lamp that has the power to revive the barren land at the cost of sacrificing all jinn. With no choice but to obey or be executed, Luili journeys with the Sultan's oldest son to find the artifact. Aided by her bodyguard, who has secrets of his own, they must survive ghoul attacks, outwit a vengeful Jinn Queen, and confront a malicious killer from Luili's past. And in a world where story is reality and illusion is truth, Luili must discover that everything, her enemy, her magic, even her own past, is not what it really seems, and she must decide who she will become in this new reality. How good does that sound? I love the fact that they're looking for this powerful artifact, this magical lamp, and it sounds like it's going to be really, really atmospheric and fun, and I'm just super excited to get to that one. And I've heard some positive reviews for it already, so I've got very high hopes for that one. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this video. I really hope that you've enjoyed all of these recommendations. I hope that you've managed to find something from here that you want to try this summer. Please let me know if you've read any of these books already. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, or if you have any summer book recommendations, please do drop them down below, because I'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, I hope that you all have a fabulous summer, and I guess I'll see you next time with another video. Bye!